All right, gentlemen. This is our 11th episode and our first one of the official season for 2025. I'm in down here about, I don't know, like an hour and some change from Daytona in Orlando. And the lady actually at the desk of the resort we're at, she's like, yeah, it's a busy weekend. We got Valentine's, we got, President's Day, and then there's some Daytona thing going on. Like, yeah, the Daytona 500.
Yeah,
Some
just a small
some
event
Daytona
up the
thing.
road.
Some Daytona thing. So that was a little
Jeez.
hilarious to me that the lady at the Disney counter was like,
It
yeah,
just goes to show you how crappy the promoting is of it.
I mean, we can definitely talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, so we've got Dodge is going to come back next year in the trucks. They're talking possibly Cup. We've got the Daytona
Wait.
500 and the duels. We have a lot to talk about. Where would you like to start, gentlemen?
I saw something about that earlier. That's really happening, or was that
That's a
just
real
a?
thing. It's a huge rumor Chris Knight came out with.
Yeah.
And Chris Knight's kind of like Jordan Bianchi. He doesn't really just put it out there without some fact behind it.
So
Would
we
you
can
agree,
start
Alan?
there. Yeah, I would agree. So we can start with that. We can start with the Dodge rumor. Um, Dodge, a couple years ago, actually was entertaining the thought of coming back, but NASCAR, I think Dodge was pointing toward like electric vehicles, and NASCAR wasn't yet, or something along those lines. So Dodge pulled back the brakes based on the direction that NASCAR was going with lower horsepower and all the different changes with this current chassis. Uh, under their previous ownership. They've got some new people in charge now, so I don't know how that's changed uh their trajectory on whether or not they want to rejoin the sport. But if it's true that they're going to come back in some capacity in trucks first and then Cup, which would make sense. I don't think the bar for them to re-enter trucks is very hard. They were there before, so other than an updated body, it's not like they have to completely redesign their car for the next gen, like all the things they've
Yeah,
got in that
they
platform.
really don't have to design an engine either because of the Elmore stuff.
Right. So
So
I
they
think
only have
that's
to design a chassis and the body, and you're ready to go.
yeah. So if they're coming back, I mean, that would be awesome. First off, I didn't see them as a potential candidate coming back originally. Not that I wouldn't love them to, but I didn't think they were going to come back because of the direction they're taking the Challenger and the Charger with the electric vehicle setting. And NASCAR's not really heading that direction anymore. They've said in their previous press conferences they were going that direction, and then some of the manufacturers have obviously adjusted course because electric vehicle adoption is not what they thought it was going to be within the US. So it's not meeting um, their marketing goals for what they need to represent with the series. So, but honestly, I think that if Dodge comes back, I think that means Kia, Honda, Hyundai, like none of those are going to come in, which I didn't really see any of those as realistic options anyway.
I I still see Honda coming with their merger. I think that would
Okay.
be. I honestly think it's going to happen.
Okay.
And I say that because they NASCAR continues to say there's multiple manufacturers interested. So
Yeah. I
I
mean,
don't
it
see
very
it
well
just
still
being
could be.
Dodge.
I guess I thought it was interesting because Steve Phelps, did you listen to Junior's podcast last week?
No.
Where he said Steve Phelps and them, he said they in one of the press conferences they're like, in the past they've said we have manufacturers interested. He said, but this time like we've got manufacturers interested, no bullshit. And Junior's like, oh, so now I should take this seriously. Like now that you
Yeah.
realize no bullshit, maybe you're telling me the truth.
Yeah,
I don't see how that changes the legitimacy of it either way. I still don't. I I feel like if another manufacturer wanted to be in, they would have been in when the next gen was being formed, when we had all this stuff being built. Now the barrier to entry, it's a part car or a kit car essentially. So really, other than the engine, I don't think it is that big a barrier to entry. You've got the aerodynamicist portion of it. You got to build a body,
You got to
but
build a platform.
and you got to build an engine, but you don't have to build a roll cage. You don't have to build brakes, science out tires, and all those special off components. So we'll see. But that was an interesting revelation today that you posted. I'll be interested to see where that goes. I think it'd be great if that timeline holds true, and in 2028 they come back full time in Cup racing. I think that's what it was, right? 2028, not
Yeah,
2026.
that's what the rumor is. Yeah,
Okay,
28.
Yeah.
so if they came
As
back
it
in
said, as
20,
soon as 28.
so if they were to come back full time in 2028, assuming there's no other manufacturers that join the fray between now and then, who do you think would be their flagship teams? Who do you think they would pursue that's not already a tier one partner with either Ford, Chevrolet slash GM or Toyota?
I, I think they'd be remiss if they didn't go after Penske, since Penske won them a championship as they were leaving.
But do you think Penske they would go after Penske knowing that Penske ditched them for Ford? Like Dodge wasn't leaving when Penske left them for Ford. It
That's right.
happened first. So do you think they would go back to that relationship?
I
Or
forgot that little detail. So,
I know the last rumor of Dodge coming back was they were courting RFK at the time. So,
I don't,
see,
unless Jack Roush dies,
Yeah,
right.
I don't think
uh,
that'll never happen.
No, I'm not saying that
the
that's the
only
way
way it
they'd
happens
want it.
if
If they were
Jack
going to
Roush
steal a
dies.
Ford team, I would think you would steal Roush over Penske only because I'm sure there's some bad blood there because of the Penske leaving them to go to Ford at the time.
Yeah.
I honestly wouldn't take either one
Um,
of those at this point because they're both tier one Ford teams. I would probably go after a
I was
Trackhouse, a um,
I was
20.
either gonna I was either gonna say colleague
I was
because
Yep,
going to say
yep,
track
they're on
college.
my list.
I was gonna say colleague, RWR or Spire.
Yep, I was thinking Colleague, Spire, maybe Rick Ware, but my top three
You
candidates were
also,
Colleague, Spire, and Legacy Motor Club because Legacy Motor Club is third on the list with Toyota, and they don't get any major direct Toyota Tier One support. So, and you're talking about you're pulling over a seven-time champion with
here's
him.
something to think about, though, guys. NASCAR has 4 charters set aside.
Yeah, it could be four entirely new teams.
It it could be Junior Motorsports.
I don't think that's ever going to happen.
I,
Yeah, that,
I know, but did we ever see Jimmy Johnson going to Toyota?
No,
Did we
no,
ever
but I
see
mean, it's
Joe Gibbs
possible.
going to Toyota back in the 2000s? When they
Uh,
switched to Toyota, I was like, what?
a
They've been
lot
with
more
GM since '93.
a
I
lot
don't.
more than a lot more than I'd ever see an Earnhardt in outside of a Chevrolet.
I don't think there's any scenario on Earth. Well, I'm not gonna say there's not any, but I would.
So
I
mark your calendars. If it ever
yeah.
happens, just go back and go, you know what? Blake was right.
Okay, I will. I definitely don't see a scenario where Dale Jr. in this storied relationship with GM that him and his father had all through those years. Like, other than that one Ford car in the 15 that Dale Sr. drove, like, I don't see any scenario where you would see an Earnhardt in anything other than a Chevrolet. I think Chevrolet would like shit a cat if he said he was leaving because
That,
that's major
well, the
money.
reason I said that, that might be his only way to get in.
It could be.
That's why I say it.
Yeah.
It he's not buying a charter. He's got his feet wet now.
Yep.
He kept tweeting about how I never thought I'd get used to or like the fact of getting cup updates of my car. You
Right.
know, so I mean he's got the taste now. So that would be his easiest way in was be to use one of NASCAR's set aside charters
Yeah. I mean, definitely.
for a new car. And guess what? There's probably nothing in the agreement that says you have to stay with Dodge. He gets in, uses it for a couple years, and goes back to Chevy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Like, I'm
That's
all
possible.
about finding loopholes.
Yeah.
You find all
Because
them loopholes during your naps or what?
Yes, yes, I
man,
do.
I definitely I can see what you're saying there. I think that's a major reach. It's not impossible because if it got him in the door, if Dodge was the one to help him get there and get the charters, but then who's really the owner of the charters? How much of it is him? How much of it is Dodge coming in? You know,
It's junior motorsports, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Well, you notice they changed their logo, or he changed his logo on Twitter to his Junior Motorsports Cup profile. That seal on the front of the car.
Yep.
So I mean, it's
Yeah,
not
he's
even
hooked.
though they
He's
say it's a
hooked
one on
now,
four,
and
they really like that. So
he's hooked now, and he's gonna try to find a way in, and that may be
Like,
the only way.
you knew it was going to happen.
Oh yeah, I did too.
you know, and maybe the financial model with the new charter
He
agreement is more
he,
palatable to his liking.
he
You know,
said just the tip, and
yeah,
it's been 20 minutes, and it's no longer just a tip.
yeah. He said the first inch, but he didn't say which inch was the first inch. Are we counting from the base, or are we counting from the tip? So,
I think he's addicted now, and I think he'll probably run a couple more races this year.
and I mean, I'm sure NASCAR is loving it because I mean, the drama on, it's a perfect segue into we can start with the duels. The drama of, toward the end of that first set, was it the was they were in the first duel or the second duel?
That was the first duel.
So they were in the first duel, which was fairly
Smash Fest.
anticlimactic overall. Other than the ending where, we didn't know if Allgaier was going to make it or not, with less than 10 laps
I
to go.
knew
He
it.
was sitting there in the back. I was looking at him like, they might very well miss it, but, because every time he'd get up there to pass Yaley would get a little bit of a side draft or a little bit of a pull from the line in front of him and pull back in front of him, and Justin's car would
I
fall back.
I
So,
never had a doubt because when he wasn't, with the exception of maybe 2 laps, when he wasn't in the front, Truex was, and Truex had the speed thing, so that would give the speed spot to Allgaier. So like I never had a doubt. I knew that there was obviously a small scenario where he could have got screwed out of it, but I didn't see Yaley going up and passing Truex to knock him out.
okay. See, I guess I didn't realize that part um, when I was looking
Yeah,
at it.
Truex would have been the highest open car. That changes the speed car to the third one, and that was Allgaier. Same thing for the second race. Corey LaJoie was the fallback, and if Jimmy Johnson
Yeah.
finishes highest of the open, it puts it on Corey.
Yeah.
I didn't have a doubt in either of them personally.
So with the duels, we got a couple different things. So the first one, finishes under green, no issues. Couple little moments, but nothing major to write home about. Bigger story, Bubba wins,
Well,
but the bigger story was Junior making it in, right?
well,
Yeah.
Chandler Smith though early in that race
Yeah.
made a move in the '66 car, which was supposed to be piloted by Mike Wallace. And
Yep.
if you guys remember during that race, I messaged you guys. I don't believe Mike Wallace would have made that mistake.
Nope,
Nope.
I don't think he would have pulled down. Now, the one thing I did mention to you when we were talking about, I give Chandler the benefit of the doubt only because he said his car that he was driving did not have the rear view camera wasn't working. So that part, and then his view for the mirror wasn't right that he needed, which to me those are critical safety things. I
That
thought
car
NASCAR
don't
wouldn't
have a
let you
spotter.
drive with all that stuff messed up.
That's what your spotter's for if that messes up. Does this
Oh, no,
spotter
I
not
agree.
count?
I'm just saying
No, but
I thought that would
yeah,
have.
I'm with Alan. I didn't think they were allowed to actually start the race unless it was working at the start of the race. That was always my understanding.
If you don't have your
I've
radio,
never heard that. That's the whole point of having a spotter. If your mirror breaks off or whatever, you have a spotter to tell you car low, car high, inside whatever. And he never once referenced my spotter. He said I knew the seven was coming up and I wanted to block him. Well, you're on lap 15 to 60. What the hell are you blocking for?
yeah, no, you're completely right. I just thought if you've got two critical safety issues, and those are safety issues because those safety systems that control your visibility, I would have thought you would have been more not cautious, but more measured in your moves that early in the race. Uh, knowing that we're like I said, we're only 15 of 60 laps into this thing to make it in. If you aren't 100% sure, you're clear. Like, why are you making that move at that time that early? Like that was just inexperience, really, is what that was. And then
Yep.
Helio was in what duel, first or second? I don't remember
He
now.
was in that wreck.
Okay, so he was in that first one, but he proved. I guess reason why I bring it up is he proved at my point. He did exactly what I said he was going to do, which was he was going to drive in there full steam, not knowing how to react, and run right into the wreck.
Yeah, because wasn't he even in the wreck in the duel that he wasn't even in? He fucking drove into that one too, I think.
Oh my God.
God, man. I,
I
did
mean,
either
You're
you?
thinking about the ARCA race.
I
yeah, you're thinking about the ARC race, but I mean, he was
no,
in
I
every
was just
wreck
gonna say,
every
yeah,
weekend.
I watched. I know Blake didn't because I talked to him earlier. But did you watch that ARCA race? That was
Yep.
that.
I
I
mean, ARC
mean,
is pathetic as it is at this point, but I mean, if that's
but
what it takes to qualify to get in a cup race, that's not a good measure to me.
well, especially when it even drove your point home. He got caught up in that wreck in the ARCA race, and instead of backing it down and getting to pit road, he wrecked even harder after the fucking caution was out because
Mhm.
he never slowed down.
Yep, he drove into
So,
the wreck on the Sunday
well,
race.
like I
So,
said, not even driving into the wreck, he wrecked after the wreck because he still never slowed down.
Yep,
well, maybe his brakes were messed up. Maybe he's taking a nap.
Yeah.
yep. So I mean, I feel
Oh,
bad for him because he's the it. You know, it's a referendum on Helio, and really Helio's not the issue. It's the overall process as a whole. It outlines that you put somebody in there who has no experience in these cars, and whether he's the start of the wreck or driving into the wreck, some people's seasons are starting out with deficits as a result of him either driving into it or being a part of something that he had no business being there, and he didn't qualify on it. He didn't earn his spot. At the end of the day, he wrecked
so
out in the duels, and he was guaranteed a spot.
Yeah.
so on track today on Sirius XM,
Yep.
Larry Mack and Daniel Trotta was really harsh on OEP. I think
Good.
I think they both liked it at first, but now they're like, you've, and they said what we said all along. You haven't ever drove a stock car. You did drive a type of stock car in the IROC in 2002.
Mhm.
Uh, there should be a different measure to get into the Daytona 500. Maybe run a
Well,
road race and maybe run a smaller oval track, then do the 500. Your first race should never be the Daytona 500, which
No.
it in theory, though, we look back a couple of years, and Chris will remember this because I think he was kind of rooting for him. Travis Pastrana, but Pastrana looked great for most of the speed weeks,
oh
where
yeah.
Jasper Nevis really didn't. I mean, Pastrana kind of
But Travis
caused the
has had
last
quite a
wreck,
bit of
but
experience too.
Well, I'll give this to Pastrana though. Pastrana also ran Xfinity races. You know, he had that 199
yeah,
with the one that was
he
blacked out for the Boost mobile car. But also Pastrana, when he ran it, we still had the hours of practice where you go out, you'd make a run, you'd do some drafting, you come back in. We had 6, 7 practice sessions throughout that 2 weeks of speed weeks, not just
Speed
pole
weeks.
qualifying, the duels, and let's go.
It
Where
was
no, we
still
didn't.
speed
Theo,
weeks.
yep,
No, we
you know,
didn't. No,
for Pastrana.
2022. He no,
No, but when he ran,
You know
2022.
what?
I'm saying before he ran it then, before he ran in Cup, like before that, he ran in Xfinity and
Yeah.
on
Oh,
the old Toyota Camry and that 199. So it's not like Pastrana's first foray into Cup had no prior stock car
yeah, I
experience
kind of forget that he
to
was
build
did
from,
Xfinity.
and he ran the
He ran
Xfinity
a lot of
cars for
trucks too.
Roush, you know, with those funky colors and the
Yeah.
stripes and the neons and everything. So like he had a lot of prior practice experience and prior oval experience to where by the time he got there, yeah, that was his first time in a cup car, really, but it wasn't his first time in a stock car. It
Yeah.
wasn't all of it combined into one, also with the compressed, shortened schedule and everything. So I think it's an unfair comparison in my mind to say these two are alike.
And Travis run a lot of late models before he even got into those too.
Yep.
He did. He went down and run not I don't think he ran I don't think he ran I he may have ran ARCA. I don't remember him running ARCA, but I know he ran a lot a lot of late models,
Ran
super
ARCA
late
for a
models.
while, so I have to go back and look, but yeah.
But he ran a lot of truck races, a lot of Xfinity races
Yep.
before he ever, yeah.
So I think it's bad for NASCAR. They'll definitely have to come back and revisit this rule that they outlined in the charter, because yeah, it showed really why it's a bad idea overall. It reeks of desperation.
Yep.
And if your goal is to put on the best, which we'll get to that in a minute, but if your goal is to put the 40 whatever or 36 best drivers on the track, they should be the 36 best drivers that are going to give you the best race. I don't know that adding Helio or Max Verstappen or any of those guys improves the quality of your racing. And we all know that if you sign up to go run the double and you want to go run Indy, every person there has got to qualify, and F1's damn sure not going to give you a spot. So I don't know why
Neither,
we are. Why are we
neither.
lowering the caliber of our, the caliber of the bar we say we have to get into ours? We're bringing it down here. It just says the entertainment is more important than
Yeah.
the legitimacy of the talent of our drivers. So
You got to kind of feel bad for Trackhouse too because they
oh yeah,
didn't earn. They earned zero money.
yeah,
They wrecked two cars,
yeah.
and the only thing they got out of that
Well,
was the
three,
sponsorship money.
because I'm sure they've got financial ties to the one in ARCA, so they wrecked an ARCA car, two Cup
The
cars. So
even worse.
yeah,
So
so you went home with three wrecked race cars, probably about $1 million in destroyed car equipment,
yep,
and you got no money for it.
yep.
So that's
So
And
you
an,
were
and an owner that said he's leaving.
yeah, and
yeah,
yeah,
Pitbull.
Pitbull said he's out. So
Yeah,
I'm interested to
been a
talk
great
about
week
that.
for Trackhouse.
That'll be a good discussion topic here in a little bit. Then we
So
get duel number two. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say you were about to say the finish for duel number two was
So we get to duel number two. It's a little calmer. We wait till the end to destroy a bunch of shit. And they were what? What would you estimate? 30 feet from the line, 50 at most. All right, so we're 50 feet
uh,
from the line.
probably 200 really.
Okay, either way, they're on the front stretch coming to it when the
Yep,
caution happened. Okay,
yep.
they're literally in the D of Daytona, of the D-shaped gigantic oval that is Daytona.
Yeah, they were just entering the tri-oval. So, I mean, at that point, I mean, yeah.
So if nobody's in the fence, like up into the air, like Austin Dillon was during the summer race years ago, or any of those
Reese.
things, then why in 2015, or Larson in the spring race in the 32, we're that close. Okay, you've now just said you threw the caution. Jones made it to the line first, but he was slightly behind Cindric. Um,
When the caution came out.
and the caution came out. The past precedent they've set for years has been, if they're not going to end up coming back around into the caution, into the wreck, which they weren't, because it's not like they were going to, by the time they've passed the checkered, slowed down and everything, they would have been slow coming into there. It's not like they're
You got
at
two and a
Bristol
half
and going to run
miles to
right
slow
back into
down.
it. So, but they throw the caution. Okay. But in the past, we've always raced back. We've let them race back if possible. They're, like you said, even if it's 200 feet, they're moving at 180 something, almost 190 mile an hour at that point. They literally were at the line 4 or 5 seconds after the caution came out. So what was the difference there? And the reason, and I think it's funny because during this weekend, Mike Ford, Denny Hamlin's old crew chief, being the jackass that he is now, working for NASCAR, being their messenger boy, and him and Denny constantly get into it on, Denny disagrees with Mike because Mike tailors the stats to say most green flag passes or the most whatever to make it look like the competition's better than it's ever been with the way things are. Said, hey, NASCAR said, we've got a hauler podcast now. We're going to talk about our officiating. And the first race out of the gate official to the year, they step on their dick. You have this caution and say, this is how we're going to do business. Sunday's race happens. They're on the back stretch. We've got over half the racetrack still to go to the front. They wreck. Byron comes shooting out of there with, what was it, Gibbs behind him?
Reddick.
Reddick.
Okay, Reddick. Yep, Reddick. And that's one of the many monster cars. It's hard to keep track. There's so many monster cars on track.
There's only 3 of them. What are you talking about?
They all look alike. They're all black with an M and either green or yellow. So they come shooting out of there and they run the other half of the track. No caution. Well,
They waited till Byron actually took the checkered flag to throw a caution.
Then you throw the caution. But you couldn't have waited 200 feet on Thursday. So you're right out of the gate. You made all these changes to make yourself not part of the story, and you immediately made the story you're officiating. Very first race of the year. Couldn't help themselves.
Yep.
And on top of it, you went out of the way to say, we've got an officiating podcast now to talk about our shitty officiating. So how do you think they're going to spin this bullshit of we think, here's our justification for why we didn't stick to our own precedent and our own rules?
They've been doing this since the beginning of time. They this week this happened. Next week at Atlanta, they'll wreck in the same spot and they'll throw a caution immediately, guaranteed. And then the next time it happens, they won't throw a caution. It's back and forth all the time. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but by the comment that Harvick made, and that's where I put in the chat that we have. I lost all respect for Harvick there by backing. That was put in his ear to make it. Well, what they went by what the rule says, and the rule says that to make sure that nobody's going to come in and drive into that accident at full speed in a field that wasn't there. They wrecked in the second half of that field, coming back to the green or coming back to the checkered in that duel. Yep. And there was it's not like it was a full field. You weren't going to have another 15, 20 cars that were running into it. There was nobody back there.
Yeah, everybody was already wrecked. It's going to be wrecked.
Yep.
Yeah. But you have the Daytona 500 where the wreck happened in the first 3 cars. 1, 2, and 3 took each other out. The first 3 cars wrecked.
Whole front of the field got wrecked out.
And I was watching Larson's onboard, and his spotter's like, no caution here. Just, tiptoe through here,
Yep.
So, I mean, his car was damaged and he wasn't top speed like they were, but he was still pulling a good pace, and he could have very easily, flew in there and ran into somebody because there was no caution.
And we're going to go do this again next week at Atlanta.
Yeah.
We're going to do that same style of racing.
But then
we don't know when the caution is going to come out.
No. But to finish off what I was saying there, not only did I lose all respect for Harvick like I put in the chat, but I never did even follow up. I was so pissed on Sunday, I never even sent a follow-up text. Then I lost what little bit of respect I had, other than the dude's been in the sport forever, for Mike Joy on supporting. Well, you got to hand it to NASCAR for letting them run back to the green or the caution or run back to the checker. I'm like, what? What the fuck? You guys were absolutely okay with them fucking Jones out of the win on Thursday.
Yep.
But now you're praising them for letting them run back. Yep. Letting them run back to the checker didn't change anything other than third place. The only spot that changed hands was Jimmy Johnson. Went from 4th to 3rd. There was nobody else with nobody to push. There was no way fucking Reddick was going to touch Byron.
Yep. Well, there was a small change in the late teens and the 20s.
When Byron came out of it, he had a much bigger gap on Reddick, and I think Byron, I'd like to go back and look at his style.
It almost looked like I thought there for a minute he fucking slowed down, and I thought
that's what I thought. I thought he let up and realized there's no caution, and I better keep my foot down until they tell me otherwise. Because by coming to the line, Reddick was on him.
Yeah.
Reddick never lifted, it looked like, and Byron did let off for just a second, it looked like. Or he didn't have full momentum when he came steaming out of there, and the air pushed him forward with Reddick drafting up behind him. But either way.
No, I think he lifted.
Yeah, I really think he agree too. I think he came out of there and he slowed down enough to
And what ultimately screwed Reddick on that is Reddick lost all his momentum. Even though he was catching him coming to the he got hit in that wreck. He got hit,
Yeah,
I
Denny
think, the
hit
left
his.
front, and it pushed him up into the wall,
Yep.
and yeah,
Yep.
slammed the
He
right
was lucky he
side.
didn't even finish.
Yeah,
Yep.
I just
So,
that like well, like I told you guys, the comment that Harvick made, I think not only should NASCAR, like I said, that you might as well at that point, like you said, award Mark Martin the 2007 Daytona 500 and have Kevin Harvick be the one to fucking deliver the trophy to him, because that was fucking stupid. That whole both Thursday and Sunday proved what we've all known forever about this sport. I mean, that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, they were asked backwards. The Thursday should have kept green. Sunday should have been yellow.
Yeah.
yep. I'm glad we're back to racing. I love racing, but I hate that our season starts with these two shit show displays of racing that is now the speedway packages. You know, the Clash showcased what NASCAR really is with the tire fall off, the management of your car, getting separated, working traffic. That was a real showcase of what you can expect for 85% of the season in
Oh yeah.
NASCAR.
Yep.
And we open our season with what's supposed to be our Super Bowl. And so that's kind of what I want to talk about with this, with a big emphasis is when you, if this is our Super Bowl and we're comparing ourselves to stick and ball sports, which they say they don't want to do, but they do want to do from the fan appeal and everything, the Super Bowl puts the two best teams that season against each other. And it's the teams, the talent, the prep, everything like that. How is this our Super Bowl when the teams don't, the teams can prepare the best car, the driver can prepare as much as they want, but you can't get away from each other. You can't make the moves you need to be able to make. It's not even close to in your control. You could be doing nothing wrong all day. And it's not like a car wrecks in front of you and you've got time to react. It wrecks in front of you and you're just in it. And there's not a damn thing you can do about it. How is this
Nothing.
a Super Bowl event? Like to me, this isn't even a marquee event anymore. It's lost the luster that once was the Daytona 500. And, you know, to me, I think, you know, they like to say all the time, like, oh, Kyle Busch doesn't have a Daytona 500 on his resume. All right, Larson doesn't have a Daytona 500 on his resume. Tony Stewart didn't have a Daytona 500 on his resume. And they're saying like if you don't have this, it's almost like it's a missing notch on your belt. But I don't think so anymore. I think not having this race doesn't mean anything anymore because it's so far out of your control that it doesn't showcase what makes Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Dale Jr., Jeff Gordon, you know, all those guys that have stacks of plate racing wins under the Gen 6, Gen 5, Gen 4 races, what showed how their ability to manipulate a run, manipulate the gap, lay back, get the draft, pass, and slingshot. Because you can't do that anymore for the most part. If you're further back in there, you're just stuck and you're along for the ride. And there's nothing you can do about it. So,
Yeah, over a horrible car design that they designed a car that will suck up to the car in front of you until you get there, and then they take the ability to pass away.
so you know, one of the things they talked about on the teardown, and I was thinking about it for our discussion, but I'm glad they brought it up. Like, do you think Daytona is a crown jewel event anymore and like a resume must have? So, like, you know, Michael Walters got two Daytona 500, and in his era, those were two significant achievements. If you said you had two Daytona 500s like William Byron has under this era, I don't think that's the same level of achievement. I think Byron's Daytona 500, it's nice to have, but they're not anything to be like, I was the best that day. He wasn't even in contention to win most of the
He
race.
lucked in, as I said earlier in another podcast. He is lucked in the over half of his wins.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he is in contention or top 10, top 5, but he lucked into last year's. He lucked into this year's, and he continues to be. I guess he's got Jimmy Johnson's horseshoe because
8 months.
that I mean he's running 7th coming off turn 2, and the wreck happens and he bolts out of it like cold trickle in Days of Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
what the hell?
Yep.
So I mean, he's the luckiest son of a bitch I've ever seen in my life.
When he came flying out of that puff of smoke, I immediately could see Blake flipping a fucking table. Like, are you fucking shitting me? Like, this is such
I here's my exact reaction.
I was like, I'm glad as a prior Gordon fan to see a 24 win. Don't get me wrong, but by no means was he the best driver that day, the best team, the best car. The best drivers and cars
The
were,
best car drove right into a wreck.
yep, the best cars
Created it.
were the 11, the 22, the 12, like the
The two
19.
was amazing too.
Yep, the two. Like those were some of the best cars all week. And they all got wrecked somewhere or another, and that's just the way it is. But I mean, to sit here and say to for anybody to sit here and build up Byron and say like he's this level or Hall of Fame worthy or anything like that yet because he's got two Daytona 500s. I don't think his two Daytona 500s are worth a damn thing. They're just
The
too good
Daytona
at racing.
500, in my opinion, hasn't been worth anything since after Jamie McMurray won it. What was it 2010?
Yep,
Was
Yep.
old pavement.
yep.
Everything before that is legit. Everything after is stacked up, double wide. See who will get pushed.
I will say
Yes,
the
there's a little
tandem ones
skill.
were better. Like I would take the tandem racing any day over this crap.
Oh, absolutely.
And when honestly, I thought that's what we were about to get when on the final restart, when I think it was the final restart when Denny took off pushing Cindric and they like left the friggin' pack. I'm like, oh, we're about to get some tandem business here.
Well, you can't tandem with only 510 horsepower. You
No, but I mean, they were
can. It's
so
just you're not going to get away. There's no
they
getting away with this.
they pulled away so far. I was like, I guess Denny's going to run it until his car blows, or they get far enough away where he could try and slingshot around him. And he had pulled off the move. He was able to get around Cindric, get in front of him. The pack caught back up, but his plan worked. He had perfectly positioned himself. And then Custer,
Cole Clusterfuck.
yep, Cole Clusterfuck.
I'm sorry, but it's not Custer's fault. It's the 19s.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. You got each one's pushing the next one. So, but Custer bounced two different people off the front of his hood. Bell and
Yeah.
uh,
I'm not even gonna
But
put that on. I'm not even gonna put that on Briscoe, dude.
yeah,
Briscoe made a move to the inside of the 41 and turned the 41 into the 11.
No,
yeah.
I know, but I don't even put that on Briscoe.
Well, who do you put it on?
NASCAR for creating a bullshit fucking car. It's just like watching a goddamn video game where you can drive through the whole fucking field, get to first place, get a 1-2 second lead, and it's all for what? They've created a car that now will not run by its fucking self, and everybody else is just going to fucking catch you. They've designed that car to run in that pack, and this is all we're ever going to see until they get rid of it.
Yep.
Either we need to change the car, or we just, and I know nobody wants to hear this. Everybody thinks I'm fucking stupid for saying it, but we should not even be going to these fucking racetracks anymore. Period.
Well, I've been saying that for 20 years.
Yep. Like I said, I'm glad we're back to racing. I don't get excited for actual racing till we get past these kind of racetracks and we start, when it was prior to Atlanta being the second race, becoming a plate race, it was or a drafting race. I got excited once we got to Auto Club, once we got to Phoenix, once we got to, because even no matter how close their racing is, it's real racing. It's in the team's hands, it's in the driver's hands that weekend. You show up with your car, you can tweak and tune on it. You're not beholden to the next guy to pull you around that track. It's all in your hands. You either showed up ready to go and you make the right adjustments throughout the race and then practice, or you don't. But the best person usually wins on those days. The best person almost never wins the Daytona 500 now. They don't even win the duel,
I mean, how sad is it to say I was actually impressed with the two Daytona 500s that Michael Waltrip had compared to the two Daytona 500s that William Byron had.
Yep. And
Well, he earned them.
Exactly.
Yep. His even up to 2015 when Dale Jr. won in that patriotic car, I would still say like the first 2 years of the Gen 6, it still raced really well. Yeah, first 3 years, so 13, 14, 15, before they really tried to make it a very draggy, you couldn't get away from each other car. But when they were still running the SS, that it ran really well. Um, you could get runs and shoot out, and then the next guy would get a run because that's when Joey got one of his day. Because yeah, 2015 was when Joey won the Daytona 500, and in the summer race and the Pepsi 400 or Coke 400, whatever it is, in the summer race was when Junior won in the red, white, and blue, or the black, red, white, and blue flag car, and Dylan went flying into the stand and then got out, and he's like, "I'm good." So
Yep.
I mean, that was a good race. It was scary as hell, but it was good. And ever since then, we just haven't really had good drafting races. They've
Well,
just
what
continued to.
was what was great about the '90s Daytona 500s is handling mattered.
Yep.
Handling and speed. Your horsepower. You'd always hear. Uh, I think it was Earnhardt. It's hard to keep up with that Yates power down the straightaway,
Hmm.
and stuff like that. Well, you don't hear that ever anymore.
No.
Not at the plate tracks, and you know handling needs to matter, and it doesn't. There is not one bit of handling going on in these races now, and it's because of how slow they're going. They're
Yep.
going 20 miles an hour slower than 10 years ago. And they're all because they're wanting to make sure they don't have liftoff. Well, guess what? Ryan Priest showed it doesn't matter how slow you're going, you
If
can
your goal
still
is to not
you
have
not
lift,
only can you get liftoff, but you can do a fucking wheelie down the back straightaway.
yep.
Not only that, but not only do we have are we running 20 miles an hour slower with all the reduced horsepower, but we've got almost double the fucking tire patch, double the fucking grip that those cars have touching the racetrack. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
And I said it in a prior podcast. Take some of the spoiler out, change the angle of the spoiler, cut the spoiler in half, maybe even more than that.
Take it off.
And yeah,
Take it off
man,
entirely.
take it off
All
for
the
the speedway
downforce from the
races.
car comes from the underbody anyway, is what they
Yeah.
say. Then
So
take the spoiler
so
off
take the
completely.
spoiler off. Uh, hell, let them get lower to the ground if they want, and put the back end lower and the front up top. Have the front up in the air,
Hmm.
and let them race and let them see who actually has the skill instead of, oh, we're 3 by 3 for 30 straight laps because we're all going the same speed and we can't pass. Oh, not to mention we have to save fuel because
Yep.
the only thing that matters is having enough fuel to make it to the end.
Yep. And I
That
think the fuel savings would take care of itself if you took the stage breaks out at these races. Not every race, but these races specifically, because you wouldn't be able to draft to save fuel anymore because you wouldn't know when the caution's coming. So you have to get your track position and maintain it at all times. You wouldn't be able to, like, all right, I know I'm gonna have a chance to leapfrog on my pit road when it comes, and I can afford to wait. You won't be able to afford to wait anymore. You would have to. At
Well,
these tracks, they should just take away the stage breaks. They should just get rid of the cautions that come with it, and you get a better
they, they
result.
keep saying we can't unlearn fuel savings. Bullshit.
Hmm.
You take we're let's just go with Penske. The 22, the 2, and the 12 are always some of the fastest cars on any speedway race. Get them to get up front, which they always do. Once
Yep.
they get there, line them up, mash it to the floor, and make everybody come with you.
Yep.
they
You
won't
either,
do it though.
oh, I know, but NASCAR's got 100% rule, and we're not following it. Well, we're saving fuel. That's our 100%. No, you're
No,
not trying.
how are you going to say that they're following the 100% rule when they're even showing on fucking national TV the leader running at fucking anywhere from 50 to 70% throttle
Well, that's
as the
what I'm
leader?
saying. The teams are just saying this is 100% because we are saving fuel to make it to the end of the race.
That's
Well,
bull. That's not 100%. That's yeah. Hey,
it's 100% to them, and that's all.
Yep.
It's stupid though.
it's 100
Yeah,
percent bullshit. What it is.
when I saw 56% throttle, I was like, I almost turned it off. I really did. I was like, this is ridiculous.
No, I
If you're
streamed it on
doing
my phone.
56% throttle, just take, like I just said, take one team and just floor it and leave them in the dust. You'll lap them in 20 laps
Yep.
unless they pick it up.
Yep. I streamed a lot of the race yesterday because we were out doing dinner. And when I was watching, I'm like, this is ridiculous. And then the number of times they showed Priest's car getting airborne, in my head, I'm like, they keep saying we give NASCAR credit because they keep going back and looking at the car in the R&D center. At the end of the day, you created this problem when you made this car. Why on earth is this thing a flat bottom car? And you complain about the cost to the team. The teams complain about the cost of the cars and the expenses and the parts. The most expensive thing on that car is that bottom panel. That's why they have the rub blocks to protect it. And it's why the teams don't want you towing it back to the garage without being up because it scrapes up that diffuser and everything. So I just don't understand where the hell that thing even came from, first off. And then why that's not an option to take it off altogether at these tracks because it's the sole reason why these cars get airborne.
No, that car got airborne the same way that Ty Gibbs' car got
Well, he
airborne.
ran up what right, but I'm saying like instead of it having that ability to let the air out and set back down, once it got up there, there's so much
Yeah,
under pressure under the bottom side because it's a flat plate. There's
yeah.
no scenario where that car was coming back down without flipping over, period. I mean, he was slowing down and it still flipped him over anyway.
Oh yeah, and well, not only that, but the gen before this, as soon as the front end of that car come up in the air, those roof flaps should have come up
Yep.
because all the air would have been coming through the engine compartment, which is now not
Yep.
possible.
Yep. Coming through the engine, coming through the driver bay, through the holes that are in the floor pan and all those things. Like honestly, there should be pan. I don't know why, and maybe they have researched it, but I was thinking about this while I was watching that car over and over again. I'm like, why do we have, if we were to take that off, why are there not, just like we have roof flaps and hood flaps, why is there not a set of flaps in the floor pan of these
That
cars
would come
that when
up.
they start to get up like this, they open and the cockpit the greenhouse fills with air, and that allows the air to hit the next set of flaps, and so you're allowing all the air to flow out and it's flowing through the car, which is going to force it to set down because now there's nowhere to build pressure to keep lifting.
Yeah, the weight's going to bring gravity. Will do its job and bring it back down.
Yeah,
Race
okay. So what if the
race
car
cars
comes
are like
apart?
women, damn it. They're not supposed to have flat bottoms.
Yep. If they would just,
Just flat bottom girls, I guess.
yep. So they've got a long way to go on this car, but I mean, I agree with Priest. Like, and Harvick did say something about this, and he mentioned it during the clash when Ty Gibbs did that wheel jump and then he sat back down. He said he's got to be in pain because the car doesn't give like the old car did. So all that energy went through his spine.
Yeah,
So,
that same thing happened to Priest when that
right.
finally hit the ground.
So Priest the first time was glad to walk away. This time he's like, I'm glad to walk away, but we're gonna kill somebody. Like, and it's not gonna be the car's not when we do, the car's not even gonna look that bad. His car looks massively better than it did when he barrel rolled. And I bet you he's probably in more pain today than he was in the other one because it dissipated less energy this time because it didn't.
Yeah, I think taking the grass out actually makes things worse because you're hitting concrete.
Yeah.
When you land, you're hitting concrete, no doubt. And it
Yeah.
paving the back straightaway is not going to keep them from getting airborne. And now they're probably going to want to slow them down even more. When, like you said, it's a car flaw, not a speed issue.
Yeah.
Cars are going to flip. Cars flipped over when we're going 60 miles an hour on the beach. It doesn't matter the speed. We've had a car flip over at Martinsville before. Like this changing the speed just to keep them on the ground. That's never going to work. So just bring the racing back. Wrecking is part of racing, and bring the speeds back up to 200, and make it to where it's a handling race again. And if you want the Daytona 500 to be big, make it to where the cars that are actually handling good and fast are the ones that are winning instead of William Byron that came off of turn 2, 7th or 8th in line.
Wish I had
winning
one of my
off a
die
fluke.
casts with me right now. Because if you look at the front end of these cars, it goes spoiler straight or splitter straight, and then it purposefully comes up, across, and then back down. Well, by doing that, they created that channel to get the air under to the diffuser. So you purposefully engineered an airplane from the get-go.
Yeah, I've been saying that the whole damn
You
time.
basically, yep. So when you look at the front end of that car, you purposefully engineered an area for air to pass underneath it. Well, of course, it's always going to get in the air. The reason why the older cars didn't get in the air as much is because the
Splitters, the whole
valence,
splitter
yep, the
touched the track.
valence was on the ground and it continually ground off. It didn't bounce off and then come back up. It continually ground
Yeah.
down. And the
There's a
surface
difference.
area under there that can allow air out is massively different. There's tons of areas for air to escape. And there's nowhere for air to escape underneath the current car today. So of course it's going to go flying. And it's always going to go flying. And what they need to do is continually take that stuff away. You know, if you go look at a car older than those two and you go get one from the, you know, the mid 2000s and early 2000s, they don't have even half of that crap. You know, the fuel cell wasn't sealed off all the way across to the outer panels, and the nose area where the spoiler was or the radiator wasn't sealed off all the way. Like the whole engine compartment wasn't sealed off. So, and as they've continued to do this, you've just created more areas for lift, for air to pressure to build up underneath. So it's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
So overall, one
Let's
out of
see.
10.
Yep. Yep.
What
So
would
like
y'all
where
rate
the
the?
crush panel is in the front, that's the big part right there, is that section. Now the air could get to those flaps even easier in the older car. So,
Yeah.
you know, which it again forced it to set back down. Sorry, go ahead, Blake. I didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just gonna say, 1 out of 10, 10 being the best. What would you rate this Daytona 500?
I think out of all the Daytona 500s we've had with this car, I think they're all pretty much the same in terms of like crappiness. I haven't
I
really.
was legit bored 90% of the race, just bored out of my mind.
See, and I actually I had two guys call me last night after the race, and I told both of them, you know what, I'm not even gonna talk to you about this anymore, because they're like, well, this is exactly what we need in our sport, because man, I was on the edge of my seat that whole race. And you were on your edge of the seat the whole race, waiting to see him just absolutely destroy race cars. That's not racing.
No, but I think that's NASCAR has decided that's the direction they want to go. Which, so Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi were talking about this. Like, if you're on a Sunday night flipping through the channels and you see these cars, even though it's a false excitement to anybody that is smart on the sport and understands, you've got, okay, yeah, they're running 3 wide and they're 20 deep. And I'm not going to say there's no skill required for everybody to do that, because it does take a lot of skill to not lose control of your car and hit each other. But
Oh, yeah, you can watch the Archon trucks.
Not the same level of skill if I rewind this sport 20 years for that same race.
Nope.
Not even close.
No. Nope.
So, yeah, I just, I think their goal is the casual passerby that's flipping through the channels when they see it, like, oh, what's this? That looks awesome. I want to watch that. And unfortunately, they're catering to that, where what we saw at the Clash was more catered toward, truthfully, your purists, your legacy fan. But your Super Bowl is catered to casual fans, oddly enough, and not to the people that built the sport, love the sport, tune in every week.
Super Bowl is tailored towards Swifties.
Yep.
Do I did there? Taylor. Never mind.
Yep. So, yeah, if I was rating this race 0 to 10, I'd give it a 4. I wouldn't.
I'm at 3. It's not exciting, as you all, both of you know. I've said this for years. It's manufactured excitement. They can't get out of their own way. The drivers or NASCAR. It's you've got the teams trying to save fuel from the time they leave pit road on the pace laps.
Yep.
Cliff Daniels, Kyle, save fuel. Save fuel.
Yep. There
Like
was a moment or two where I was impressed. Like some of the moves Denny made last night. I genuinely thought Denny was going to get his fourth Daytona 500 because
I
he
did
was
too.
getting them to school. Once he got up there to the front and Joey had wrecked out and some of the other Joey and Blaney and those guys had kind of taken themselves out, and it was Denny. He was the most experienced driver up there doing it, and he got taken out by inexperience, unfortunately. And he only got taken out by inexperience because the cars can't escape each other. If the cars could get a little bit further away from each other, he doesn't get taken out by Cole because he could use the side drive to slow Cole down to be able to get away from him here and there. And that doesn't work anymore. So, but I thought that's what we were getting ready to see was Denny get his fourth. And I was going to be okay with that because the moves he made to get that lead were impressive. Unfortunately, you don't see enough of that through the race to justify it being a good race the entire time in my mind.
I'm just amazed. Corey's car wasn't the fastest car, but once he got out in the front,
Oh yeah,
was somebody pushing him. So why on that last restart? Why did those two not stay together? Why did they choose the way they chose? I was like, what in the hell are you two doing?
when Corey was up there controlling that restart, I was like, he might finally. I was like, wouldn't it be ironic if he finally decides, whether it was decided for him or not, either way, whatever the storyline might be, I finally decided I'm not going to run full time and then I win my race. That would
Yeah.
be awesome for him to win that race and then walk off and be like, I'm out.
Well,
I told my wife that too. I said, dude, if he wins this race, the best thing he could do is drop the fucking mic and just walk away. Podcast and all, just fuck it, and I'm gone. I'm done.
I was
I
thinking the
achieved
exact
my goal.
opposite. I was thinking Trevor Bayne 2011 when he won that race. They went from part time to running a lot more races because
Yep.
they had the money to do it. So I was thinking that if he would have won, he would have had a full ride for the rest of the year because of the funding coming from winning the Daytona 500.
Well, the
No,
only reason why I didn't think that was going to be a possibility is because unchartered, not chartered, and back in the day we didn't have that problem. A fully funded ride was a fully funded ride, and it wasn't like you had the charter sponsorship paying for everything. Well, the payouts, if he won, because they were talking about it, and
I
I think
think winning the
that
Daytona 500 is like $5 million.
right, but the payout for winning the Daytona 500 as a chartered car and a not chartered car are they're significantly different.
Right, but I
So
mean, it would have still been a really good chunk.
oh no, I'm
You
not
know,
saying it probably couldn't have gotten him through a
it
full
it,
season, but
it probably would have because you keep hearing Kyle Busch keep saying you need $4 million to get a cup ride,
yep,
which I thought it was way more than that. But with the '01, that's definitely probably going to be good enough to make you the whole season. So if he
yes,
would have won, I think he would have been able to talk them into doing a full season,
yep,
and he be in the playoffs. You know, they would have got the playoff money and et cetera, et cetera.
yep, yeah. I mean that was definitely a possibility. I just wanted to see if he. I was rooting for him. I'm like, okay, let's go. You know what to do. You've been there. You've been within 3 cars of winning it before when Newman got flipped and knocked out and everything. Like you were almost there. You know how to do this. It's not like this the first time you've led this race before or led a race before. At this point, you've had a couple opportunities, like you did at Atlanta a couple years ago. But him and his partner didn't stay together there, and
well,
that's
and then
all.
the other part that confused me is when Denny took off
Yeah,
and they got that lead. He got away. He backed up to who in the hell was behind him now? Uh, he finally got backed up to the other car, but when those two took off, why didn't he pull up there and go with those two? And then that would have put him almost in the catbird seat because he could have
yeah.
pushed because whoever was pushing Denny wasn't going to stay with Denny.
Well, what it looked like to me on that restart when Denny and Cindric took off, it looked like they snookered Corey on the restart. Either Corey missed a shift or spun the tires or something because they were so gone. Like, or Or Denny just anticipated that restart better than whoever was behind Corey. I can't remember.
Yeah, whoever behind Corey, he just didn't go. When Corey
Yep.
went, and he had no help.
And Denny was ready, and so they were gone like
Yep.
in tandem days. And by that point, that whole train is going, and Corey fell back 2, 3, 4, 5 spots. I was like, well, that's over.
Well,
So
he had a big opportunity there where he tried he held his line and waited till the line got back to him, but he had enough of a gap there between
yeah,
Cindric and Hamlin. There was enough of a gap that if he could have pulled up behind Cindric and they'd have been gone.
yeah, that was a possibility.
Or wreck those two, and you still have the lead.
Yep.
But I don't know that the two Fords not lining up together on that restart absolutely baffled me.
Yeah. Yeah, I just
Other than now they'll say, well look, we you told us that now if it ever comes into question, we're like, well, NASCAR said that we can't do that now. Yeah. NASCAR said well, the manufacturers can't help each other now. So,
and I believe Corey's running Atlanta this week too.
He is.
Yeah.
So So we'll see.
Same sponsors, I think.
He's almost won there before too. So in this style of racing, so I mean, maybe we'll see how he does. I'd be okay
if
he won this week.
If he can get a win in these first couple races that he's in, I mean, he might be able to guarantee himself a full-time ride because he'd be in the playoffs. But he'd have to start every race, and nothing would look better for Rick Ware than to have a car damn playoffs.
I don't think they would.
Started or not.
It would be hard for Corey to pull away from, like, he's got that stuff lined up for Amazon. So, I mean, you're talking, I'm sure, big money there.
Well, he can still do that and then go race the car.
Yeah, because it is just free race stuff. It's not.
It's free in post.
Not in race coverage. So it's a possibility.
Yeah, what better way to do a post race show than to be in victory lane?
That's another thing. Practice is on Amazon starting this week.
Yeah. So what did you think? My dad said he was pretty happy with it, but did either of you use the HBO Max in-car camera stuff?
Yeah, I signed up for it. Funny story, real quick. I used to use my sister's Max on my old phone that I used to stream the onboards. And so I went to sign up for Max and I do it all. And so later in the race, I'm on this phone and I was away from downstairs for a minute and I was like, I'm going to log in to see what's going on. And my login didn't work. I'm like, what the heck? I realized that I renewed my sister's membership.
Nice.
I used my bank account and stuff, but it's her account. I'm like,
that was generous of you. You're giving.
I called her today. I said, "Well, you're welcome." So, why? Yeah, you got Max again.
Did you do it as the monthly just to try it, or the trial, or
monthly? There's a $9.99 with ads because we all want to pay for ads, you know.
Yeah.
And then I went with the 16, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I was pleased with it. I like how you can actually, just pause the video and have it match up with the TV. And because you've paused it, you've paused the audio of the scanner too.
Mm-hmm.
Before you had to pause the scanner and then pause the video and try to match them all up. And it was just almost near impossible. So now you can literally, at the beginning of the race, when you hear the spotter say, green, 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 you hit pause, wait for it to happen on TV, and you're
yep, and then you can sync in a couple seconds.
You're synced.
Nice.
So
how was the video?
I like that. The only thing I didn't like about it is they actually put the whole field all the way down the side here. Not the whole field, but like top 20. And I don't need that on my screen. I've got, it does have in the top corner here, it's got, the driver you're on board with and where they're running. That's all I need. I don't need to know who's the top 20 is. It takes up some of the screen. I didn't really like that, but overall, I enjoyed it and I was happy with it. Our
Okay.
friend Kevin messaged me and said, "What the hell is going on with the app?" And I'm like, "What do you mean? It's working fine for me." And he sends me a screenshot of the NASCAR app.
Oh,
I'm like, "Dude, it's on HBO Max now." And he's like, "What? Since when?" I'm like, "Do you not pay attention to social media at all?"
like this has been known for a
Yeah,
while.
this has been known for months.
Yep.
Oh, well, it turns out he had it goes with his TV deal or whatever, so it's free
Yep.
for him.
So yeah, I liked the way I saw. I was able to check it out with the HBO Max app on my phone. It looked good to me. I was curious about it from a TV perspective, only because that's more bandwidth, bigger scale picture versus over your phone network. But having been a HBO Max subscriber since I think pretty much when it came out, because I did it when um, HBO or Warner Brothers was releasing their movies straight to HBO Max and in theater at the same time. So like the Batman, Justice League, Uncut, and all that stuff was coming out in there. I already knew how their platform was, and it was pretty good. So I figured they would handle the content for the NASCAR real time stuff fairly well, unlike a Netflix, which is now, just starting to, even though they've got their delivery for their video content for pre-recorded content for captured content is fantastic. If you've watched the fight, if you've watched um what was the other live event they did, but they were awful. Like they're constantly buffering the football games, the playoff games for the NFL. They were total trash because of the just Netflix's infrastructure is not designed to handle live real time content. The HBO kind of built that in, so theirs handled it well from what I saw. So
Yeah, I like I said, I enjoyed it, and it actually gave me an idea. Like right now, I well, our listeners don't know this, you guys do, but I have the TV going on one wall with the race, and then I have my old phone set up to to stream to a projector to go on the side wall. So with it being Max now and not the NASCAR app you can't download on a TV.
right,
But with HBO Max, obviously you can. So it's gave us an idea. I was talking to my roommate, and we're going to put a bigger TV on our side wall that I currently project onto, and we're going to put the race on that and use the smaller TV for the onboard.
yeah, because I mean, like I so like I said, you can't put the NASCAR app on anything that's not like either an iOS or a Google ecosystem or Android ecosystem, but like your HBO Max app, your YouTube TV, all those things, your Prime Video, they work on all these different platforms, your Fire
Mhm.
Sticks, your Roku's, and all that. So, like in my office at home, I've got my 50-inch TV I watch the main race on, and then I've got two 27-inch monitors right here. And in the past, I would have the other content over here, the NASCAR app through the NASCAR website or whatever. But now I can just put the HBO Max on, and I can have two different cameras,
Yep.
different onboards. I can have on my two 27-inch monitors here, and
Well,
so two
that's
drivers.
that's another thing. HBO Max has a four box thing that you can they've got pre-selected drivers and
Yep.
you can watch all four of them at the same time. So in your situation, you could watch the four on this one if you chose say Larson, and you could watch on board Larson, and you have five cars at the same time and you get the race over here. It's it's really a race fan's dream to be able to see all this. So
Yep.
I was mad at first when I heard about this, but now I'm thrilled with it.
The only downside I have for it, obviously, is it's another paywall, and we're making content
Well,
more
yeah, I
expensive.
already had to pay for it.
But I, at the same time, have said for years I would be happy to pay, and I am a subscription. I just wish it was all under one house. I do wish I didn't have to have YouTube TV or the Fox app or Direct TV or whatever. I wish that it didn't matter who the TV partner was for that portion of the year. There was just the NASCAR app, like there's the WWE app, and you go in there and you turn on the race, and it doesn't matter who the local affiliate partner is. It puts their wrapper around it for Fox or NBC or whoever. But I just go to one source. That's all I wish I had to do. and I could go there and pay for that. I'd be happy to pay that anytime. But I think we're going to go there. I think the next TV agreement, you'll probably have more uh, co cohabitation inside the ecosystem. But
I don't know, because how else are they going to make these billion-dollar TV deals if we're not paying for multi
I think this
ways
is
to
going to be
watch
the last. I think this is going to be the last billion-dollar TV deal. Honestly, the way
it?
things are going for
So,
streaming and everything else, I think it'll be a big money deal. But I think it's going to be around streaming access. I just don't think it'll be a major TV partnership anymore.
Well, I'm actually looking here. I got to call this network probably at some point this week, and I'm probably going to cancel this network altogether, anyways.
So, yeah, I mean, I got rid of DirecTV years ago. That was our only option when I was out in the sticks of South Carolina. When I moved to Alabama, I was out on 5 acres, and we had MediaCom, and their TV subscription was iffy at best. So I've streamed everything for years and really had no problems. I don't see a situation where I would ever go back. I like the a la carte system, and I think NASCAR and sports are going to continue to go there. Like you've got the entire NBA on HBO, you've got Supercross or not Supercross, Motocross. No, MotoGP. That's what it is. MotoGP is on there, full time. Um, Netflix is looking to purchase the rights to F1 for the live stream of each race in the next TV agreement.
that's
Uh,
insane.
that's which the running joke. I think it was on Parker Kligerman. They're like, people will tune in and they'll be like, "What season is this? When now they do it in real time. Like where did they tape this? You know, as opposed to they were joking that the majority of F1 fans probably watch, you know, the Drive to Survive like it's the season. Like instead of watching in real time, they watch it back in historical fashion. Well, now you're gonna be able to watch it in real time, so that'll be interesting. But
So, with the TV deal brought up, did you get to watch the CW?
I
Uh,
did not. I did not. We had too much going
they
on.
did phenomenal. The telecast phenomenal. Although it is CW and the live picture is, my God.
Bad.
Back in 2008, 2005. It's bad. But I don't understand why they will not put it on the damn app live. If they would put it on the app live, you're gonna get more viewers and you're gonna have a better experience. I put it on before we start recording just to see the difference, and it's just head and shoulders above the live product because of the quality of the picture. And telecast is great, but you can't make out hardly any of the words while it's live because it's not HD.
No, it's not. I mean, well, it's HD, but it's not 4K, and it's certainly not even
Right.
2K. Barely 1080p. Probably most likely 720,
It's
which
definitely 720.
which has been my number one issue when you deal with Fox affiliates more than NBC affiliates. It seems like for NASCAR stuff, like where I'm at regionally, like Florida's Fox stations don't have as good a broadcast quality as like being up in northern New York or Virginia or some of these other places. You actually get better picture if you just stream it directly on the computer. So I'm curious about that. But with regard to the TV package, what do y'all think about all the IndyCar advertisement compared to NASCAR? Like I feel like they barely advertised NASCAR during the Super Bowl, barely advertised it during the uh, AFC and NFC championship, which were leading into the Super Bowl, and then even leading up to after it, like everything has been, and the commercial strategy that Fox has employed for IndyCar, I mean, it's brilliant. You know, you showed me that one that guy put together for Larson. I thought that was perfect example of how you could do one for these guys. You know, for Kyle Busch, for Logano, like I could
Yeah, why
picture
can't you do the same
like this is
same exact enthusiasm for NASCAR?
yeah. I just feel like now I feel like Fox is not putting any effort into pushing their portion of the season at all. They're obviously doing a very heavy push for IndyCar because this is their first season covering it, and Fox is gonna it's gonna be on the main network. I think it's great for IndyCar. I just don't understand the lack of support for this perennial partner you've had for, what, 2 decades now?
24 years.
Yep. So it's just like it almost makes me like I can't wait till Fox is done as the broadcast partner this portion of the season. Like, let's get it over with. Let's get to Prime and TNT because I hate Fox's coverage.
Well, I think I even brought that up to you guys before. Last year, was it last year? Was the first year that Formula One went to Vegas?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we went down March.
Then
the
2 years
race.
now. They've been there two
Oh,
years
you're right.
now.
Yeah, this was their second year. You're right. The first year
Yeah.
was about the potholes or the
But
man.
whatever the first year was, we went down there was also the first year that we went to Chicago. And not only did nobody in Vegas knew that the Cup Series was even there, all you saw for advertising on any of the TV channels was a race that wasn't even going to happen for another, 3 months?
Yep. All for the Formula One.
Yeah, all for Formula One. And then even once you did, and I went back and watched after we got done at the racetrack, drove all the way home, and I rewatched the race later that week. They advertised the fucking Chicago street course through the entire race. You're like, oh my god, you guys, and it's I don't understand the, and I don't know if it's a Fox problem or if it's a NASCAR problem.
Well, I think it's a Fox problem, but I think overall it's a NASCAR problem because NASCAR doesn't enforce at these. It's got to be NASCAR not enforcing in the contract agreements. I need this many hours of commercial total throughout the year of your through the broadcast year of your, you know, template. You have to show X number of commercials, X number of activations, like all those things. And I think NASCAR is just not holding them accountable enough, and they've allowed TV partners to have too much say, but not enough accountability for what they're doing. And so,
which is insane because if as a TV as a TV partner coming in and spending all that money to have a sport come to your channel, whether it's national or a subsidiary, why would you not advertise the shit out of it?
right, you would want all the eyes you can. So
because you want as many people to watch it as possible. So why would you not advertise the hell out of every single race?
yeah, no, I'm in agreement because you want as many eyes on as possible for your sponsors, for your local partners that are getting, for each of the local broadcast networks. Like, there's so many reasons why you would want to do your best, and it's like they just mail it in. What was I gonna say?
Just the financial end of that confuses the hell out of me on why we're supposed to celebrate this big giant TV deal when us as fans we don't seem to get a damn thing out of it.
No. Yeah, I mean,
Go to more races, Chris. You want to watch those commercials. Jeez.
That's the plan.
I felt like this year's race had just as many commercials as last year's, which was way too many. But the one thing I'll say at this point, with all the fanfare we do every year, I feel like we should just run the Daytona 500 at night every year. We never seem to get it in, just due to where it's at, the weather and everything. Either you got to move it to a different time of year and run it mid-year, which they said is on the table. They're discussing that kind of stuff. Fine with me, whatever, it doesn't matter. But if you're going to continue to run it this time of year, you really do need to run it at night because of Florida weather. It's just the way it is. And I can't think of the last time we watched one that was in the sunlight from start. I'm trying to think of what year that would have been.
Well, the reason is not start to finish because they changed the timing of the start time to 3:30. That's why. Otherwise, another reason is probably just ironic, but ever since we pushed it back a week because of the Super Bowl, it seems like the weather is always good Super Bowl weekend where it used to be, and now the week after it seems to always rain. So, it was kind of.
Well, I think they said seven out
Ironic.
of the last 10 have been rain delayed in some
Yeah.
shape or fashion.
Well, ironically, the last time Trump was there, it rained,
Yeah.
and we got delayed to Monday. Luckily, we didn't get delayed to Monday this time, but he did push the event back about 15 to 20 minutes because of waiting for him to come in because he was late.
Mhm.
So,
Yep.
What? You're not the only one allowed to take naps?
no.
Jeez.
So let's see. Anything else about the Daytona weekend you want to talk about?
Oh yeah.
All right, go ahead.
It goes right back. Goes right back to the TV shit.
Okay.
We're finally back on Fox. One of the biggest things, I mean, at least growing up, I thought was one of the coolest things. I loved when they would go through, and what do you always have? Fans, it's time for the Fox Crank It Up.
Oh, yep.
Fucking pit road. The only one you did, and you did it on pit road. Seriously?
Right.
How did that make any sense?
You didn't want to hear the one leg? Zzz,
Yes,
zzz?
no. I mean, that I did. I got up and walked away from the TV for about 40 minutes after that. I was like, "What in who in their right mind thought that was a brilliant idea?"
Larry
Yeah.
McReynolds.
You don't even get the. I mean, you guys know what the old impacts used to sound like.
Yeah.
None of that. I
Well,
mean,
that and just when you would do it the crank it up style and they'd actually be running by and you'd see like the camera shake or
yep.
the safer barrier material between the wall and the concrete
All the
wall,
styrofoam moving.
styrofoam movement, and though every now and then you'd see a camera actually break because of the
Yeah.
rock from flying up off
They
there.
don't have those cameras anymore, though. You notice that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they got to cut costs somehow.
Yeah, I agree. That part, some of the evolution in the broadcast technology is definitely we've lost some of the good parts of it.
That blew my mind though. I was like, they did not just
That
do
was
that
all
on pit
over.
road.
That was all over X. Really,
About
cranking up is on pit road? Really?
yeah, I was like, what in the hell are they doing?
They don't know.
No, that must have been another one of Ben's ideas. I mean, sorry,
Oh,
the fans' ideas.
Yeah.
yeah, that's our idea. So another thing from the weekend, we already had our first disqualification of the year.
Yep.
Parker Klingerman is out, excited, probably the most excited I've ever seen anybody
Klingerman.
after a win,
Yep.
and gets it stripped away.
Yep. What was the reasoning? Was
I believe it was ride height.
right height? Okay. So I know they're going to appeal it, so we'll see if they win their appeal or not. I felt bad.
Oh, are they appealing?
Oh yeah, he
They're
was
gonna
not
appeal.
shy about. He was not shy during the Xfinity race broadcast, saying that and was
Yeah.
standing in the booth up there that they were appealing that. He's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
we have a strong case, and we are absolutely appealing this.
Yeah,
What's
and
the
they
case?
should. And they should, you know. I don't know what their case is.
Did he get hit at some point that possibly could have lowered it or something?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch it again.
I do not know, but I mean, I'm all for people challenging it. I mean, I hope he wins it. I hope he wins it. It sucks that he
Chris
gets that
just
big
wants him
win.
to win it because he don't like Corey Hyman.
Yeah.
Hey, I got nothing against Corey Hyman. I've got a bunch of his door numbers on cards. I just think it's funny to make fun of his name.
Yeah, I know.
So what do we think about the big announcement? So Pitbull did the Daytona 500 show, but leading into the Daytona 500, he said he is basically terminating his support within Trackhouse immediately. I know when you showed me that, I said basically I think it's time for Daniel to find some new amigos because I think that's the official writings on the wall that if Zilich doesn't replace him next year, he most certainly will the year after. I think at most Daniel's got this year and next year, and that's if he's lucky and dependent on what happens with Zilich. But
I mean, we're guessing here. We're just a couple, three hillbillies talking, but I think there's one of two things that happened. First off, I think they're arguing about Zilich possibly taking the 99 next year.
yeah,
That's a good possibility. that caused a riff. You know, I'm
Mhm.
sure Pitbull would love to keep Daniel in the car no matter what.
Yep.
And the other thing is possibly, and I think I was telling Chris about this. There's a possibility that he's seeing how much after he's been a team owner for how long, or involved in it for what, 5 years
Third year,
now.
fourth year.
Yeah. Yeah, because they started as a single car team, and they had
Well, when they
things
when they
changed. Like,
bought when they bought Ganassi is it was before they bought Ganassi. Ganassi's last year was 21, so he got into it with Justin Marks in 20. So he's been involved with it for 5 years now.
yep.
I think he's finally seeing that it's a bottomless pit,
Yeah.
and he's Mr. Worldwide, and he wants to make money, not lose it. And I think he's invested so much that he's not seeing a return on investment, and he's probably going, I'm out. It's one of those two things, in my opinion.
Well, I can definitely see your argument for the financial aspect of it. I mean, NASCAR is a continual investment, and he's self-made. Pitbull is. He's made all that money, but like I said, that maybe not be something he wants to put his money into long term anymore, or maybe with the way the charter agreement, it changed the requirements potentially because it does come after the charter agreement change. So was this leading into it, or was this a like a business realignment after the charter agreement thing, maybe? Um, and then the other part, obviously, is Daniel. When they started, it was a one car team. It was just the 99 the first year, and it was, a lot of the sponsorship on Daniel's car. Tootsie's, that's
Yeah.
Pitbull's club in Nashville.
His first 2 years, 20 and 21.
There was Slam schools, which a great initiative for underprivileged community schools, getting them educated with NASCAR, aero engineering, all these different things. Uh, but as the team has continued to evolve and grow, last year they invested into motocross, or not motocross, MotoGP. They got into that. Justin's involved in the Cars Tour. Justin's doing a ton of stuff within the racing world. And it's all Trackhouse driven. Like Trackhouse is involved in all these things in one way or another, and as a management brand. And maybe what Pitbull wanted to do with Trackhouse as a brand, maybe just that vision didn't align with what Justin sees
Yep.
Trackhouse as big long term compared to what Pitbull sees it as. So I'm not saying it doesn't involve, couldn't possibly evolve, Suarez, but I'd say it more than likely doesn't have very much to do with Suarez at all. It's probably more to do with what Justin's vision for Trackhouse as a whole is. Probably doesn't align with what Pitbull's is, and
Yep.
an opportunity came to buy him out from some investors, which we've had tons of investors coming into the sport. We got Gamebridge and all these others.
Maybe Chip will come back and help him some.
Well, I don't think he'll come help him, but I could totally see where he said, you want to go cup racing, Dale Jr. I'd love to do that with you. I could
Hey,
possibly.
he did have an affiliation with Dodge at one point.
Yep, absolutely. So maybe it'll all come to fruition. We'll see. But would so that's mine and Blake's take. What do you think, Chris, about Pitbull pulling
I,
shocks, and what does that mean for them?
I just think he doesn't like energy drinks.
No, or you like beer?
Red
Yeah,
Bull.
yeah, Red Bull.
Yeah, doesn't like Red Bull and doesn't like beer.
Yeah, that could be too. I didn't think about. Well, I mean, he's been around for Bush though, but yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I think a lot of it goes along the lines of what Blake's saying. I just think I was kind of confused when he wanted into the sport where he ultimately thought it was where what he was going to get out of it as far as what he was trying to do. It really he he seemed to come in with a whole. I mean, this is where a lot of people seem confused when Michael Jordan wanted to come into the sport as opposed to somebody like Pitbull wanting to come into the sport. But
yeah,
Michael Jordan came into the sport not just from the business end, but he came
He's
in
a fan.
as a fan.
hmm
He came in as somebody that understands the sport. He understands every series, not just Cup Series. He,
Yeah.
he understands every series. He watches every series. He watches every race. And other
And
than
he knows the
when,
guys in the field from the
yeah, yeah,
low highest to the high. Like he knows them.
yeah, and whenever you would see Pitbull at the racetrack, all it was I'm not a money grab, but an
Well,
attention
yeah.
grab.
Yeah, I mean, it was
It,
an attention
I,
and a
I'm
concert. Like it was always a self promotion. It wasn't
yeah,
really a trackhouse promotion. It was a Pitbull promotion.
yep, yeah. It was never it was yeah, and I think it's I'm sorry, but I don't go to many NASCAR races and walk around the parking lot where everybody is out there tailgating. And how many of those people do you walk by and they're playing Pitbull on the radio?
All of
Right.
I mean, come on, man. I mean, come on.
them.
It
Weren't
just,
they at Bristol, Allen? Every one of them had Pitbull on. No, just kidding, guys.
I mean,
Well,
yeah. I mean,
I heard Sweet Home Alabama, and
I can see why Kid Rock was around. I can see why he still shows up at the racetrack. I've seen him a few times in Vegas now. He shows up at the racetrack a lot. But you can also walk around the racetrack and you can hear his music playing too.
Yeah.
The one that confused the hell out of me, and I've got pictures to prove it, the one that confused the hell out of me that showed up at Vegas the year before last was friggin' Flavor Flav. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that one was a little confusing, but hey, to each their own though.
somebody gave him a hot pass. He said, "Sure, I'll go."
Yeah, somebody gave him, yeah. He lives in Vegas. We had
Well,
a couple
probably one of the casinos probably hooked him up.
more than likely, I'm sure. But yeah. But it was funny because uh I had a guy that I worked with at UPS down there stop for lunch. We had a little pizza place that we used to stop at. We had like 2 or 3 routes that we'd stop and take lunch at the same time. And there was a little pizza place where you could go in. And right after I left Vegas, Joe sent me a picture and he's like, dude, look who was at the pizza joint today. It was a picture of him and Flavor Flav standing there down the middle of Vegas. He went in to have lunch and Flavor Flav was sitting in there eating.
Well,
But
we have Atlanta this weekend. I know we already did a preview show, but after Daytona, are we changing our picks at all? Do you remember your pick?
I'm trying to remember who I picked. I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me
hold,
because that's my other computer.
hold on, let me grab my book.
I know who I picked, and I'm not sure if I want to stay with that, but I know my pick for Daytona beat both of your alls. So,
So far, I'm batting pretty bad. I know that.
yeah, my guy finished 20th. Your alls like 30 something.
I thought Bubba would do better than he did, and he had a strong car, especially after the duel.
Did you pick
Uh,
Bubba?
no, not for this, but and I had him in my pool with my dad, where
Oh,
we
okay.
I had him, McDowell, and who was Briscoe,
Well,
maybe Briscoe, and all the guys I picked had horrible luck, which is about on par for uh, drafting tracks, which is why I use them as like a throwaway. I pick people who I know for Ryan Blaney, for example, even though I know he always runs well. More often than not, shit doesn't go his way, so I never waste him in like a fantasy lineup, which I didn't do either. I totally forgot to set up our fantasy stuff.
That's
And
fine. I
I
almost didn't do Chris's, and I did it literally last second.
so
yeah, did it under the rain delay.
but, yeah, I picked those guys. They let me down. I'm not disappointed because I know, like I was saying, I wouldn't pick Blaney for something like this because even though he does draft well, he almost always gets involved in somebody else's mess.
Yeah,
And
and
I'd
that's who
rather
I
save him
picked.
for places like Martinsville twice, Phoenix twice, and put him somewhere like Charlotte or Texas, where I know where he's guaranteed to give me high points. So
So I originally had the 34 for
okay,
Atlanta,
Dylan,
and
yeah,
He did run. He was in the top five a lot for Daytona. I saw him up there quite a bit. Uh, but after the Daytona performance, it'd be hard pressed not to go with Logano.
Yep. I think Logano's definitely coming out of the box swinging this year, unlike last year. Like they're definitely the Team Penske cars are starting off stronger than they did last year, it seems. I've got to say I was very impressed with the Toyotas this week for their speed. I
Yeah,
was
they
more surprised with they've made some gains. Denny
we
was
were definitely way off on the pole.
yeah, Chase Briscoe freaking smoked everybody in qualifying. And not by like a little bit, but by like
I
seven
don't think
points.
anybody understands how much 1500s is. That it was an entire car length and then some, and that's insane.
Yeah, his car, you could see it and how well it rode through all those bumps. It never bobbled. His face, he wasn't in there. Like you could see Ty Gibbs. That's what's crazy is the difference. So the setup, Ty Gibbs is going through there. You said Chris mentioned it to you. I was watching it. The same thing when they were doing the qualifying laps, and you'd see him, and Ty Gibbs is in there like
Oh,
his
that
bouncing around. I was like, Jesus, that track looks rough. Then you see Briscoe come through, and his car looks like it's rolling on a line of butter. And
Driving Miss Daisy.
yeah,
Yeah,
that was bad, man. That Blake brought up something that I would actually like to see it too. The readings from the damn mouthpieces.
Yeah, I would love to see yeah, like you said, they all wear those guards. I'd like to see the feedback for the guys who were not
I don't know. Yeah, I know
bouncing or
Larson
bouncing
wears
around.
one. I don't know who else does. I know Larson does. That's why they changed the what track? Those are road course. It might have been Sonoma. They changed the no, it's the Roval. They changed some of the blocks because of the impact that the drivers were having.
Yeah. Of course, if you don't run them over them, you don't have that problem. But why should we hold them to track
You
limits?
don't bring logic into this.
So
So
don't bring logic into it. Like if you get rid of the underbody and don't put the
Exactly.
goddamn bump stops in, same concept.
yeah.
Same one.
So yeah,
But
all right.
yeah,
So
don't use logic.
to your
Who invited
question
this guy?
about Atlanta. So who did you have for Atlanta? You said you had Gillen, right?
I do. Yep.
And you want to stick with that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to stick with my pick, but I do think Logano is going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Okay. What about you, Chris? Who do you have? Because I don't remember.
All right, Blaney.
I think you and I both had Blaney, if I remember correctly.
I think so. Yeah.
And I will stick with that. I think Blaney. I think honestly, I think the best. God, I hate it, but I think the best drafting we have is on Atlanta, which really pisses me off. That
Well, it's
took
becoming
a
like old Daytona,
track.
and I'm even starting to like it because handling matters.
Handling
It,
matters. Everything happens faster. I think it's really the way the racing has played out there the last couple of years, and the track has aged so significantly that fast. If they, like we said when we were talking about it during our schedule and anticipated races, if they don't mess with the package and they just let the track continue to wear and keep running the same thing they've got there, I think Atlanta's going to be your best drafting race, bar none,
oh yeah, and I
no
think in two.
question, and it's going to continue to be your best for a long time.
Yeah, if they don't change anything the way it is now, we'll in 2 years we'll be watching what would be an old, say late '90s, early 2000s Daytona 500.
Yep. Which would be good, but it's going to force you to really do something with it. Honestly, that's the best thing that could happen is Atlanta continues to progress and evolve. It would force them to relook at the package they run at Daytona and Talladega because it's going to make them look that bad by
Yep.
comparison.
Hmm.
And it makes you wonder, like, should we do this to Texas?
No,
Well, look, I was not for
no, shut up.
listen, Texas sucks.
How do we mute the host? Is there any way to mute the host?
There
Just
is.
keep
You have to be
talking.
the host. You have to be the boss.
Damn it.
But I mean, you all agree Texas races have sucked for a long time. The fans have agreed Texas races suck for a long time because they have completely fucked that track up with all the chemicals they put on it. And you can't get them out. We've proven you can't get them out. Tide won't take that shit out.
Well,
But
not only the chemicals, but changing the fucking banking.
Yep, and messing with the banking and everything.
I think the banking would have been fine if they would have just not, if they would have just let it age like it should have. They
But
should have.
But
I
we've got to have good racing now, Blake.
yep,
We can't wait. We got to pave it, and then we've got to make it good right now.
yep.
Yeah. I
So
think they should do what they did with Kentucky and let it sit. And, if they pave Texas, pave it, let it sit for 5 years. Let it sit there. Let it age. Pave it the way it was just paved. Maybe make the turn 1, 2 banking a little bit bigger, but leave 3 and 4 the same because it used to be great. Bank 1 and 2 a little bit steeper and just let it sit. 5 years.
Or you can just do to it like you did Fontana.
tear it
Just
down.
tear the whole, just tear the whole damn thing down.
Call that fucker to Bucky's.
Yeah, turn into a Bucky's.
World's largest Bucky's down here at Fort Worth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this weekend is going to be a much better product than what we watched this past weekend. I think then after that we get to some real racing, thank God.
So I'm being a Larson fan here, but he has yet to finish a race at Atlanta since they repaved it. Does he finish the race?
See no reason for tradition to change. I'm going to much as I want him to, probably not.
He has not finished the Atlanta race since they repaved it. So
Nope, he had a pretty good car for the 500, and he got screwed by just being there. Honestly, So I don't see why
he
that's
was running third in the fall race and decided to lose control of it and have one of the most violent wrecks we've seen with this car.
yeah.
So
I mean, maybe his fortunes will turn, but him and drafting don't seem to be compatible for whatever reason. So thank God it's not the championship race.
oh, when he was involved in that Priest wreck,
Yeah.
normally when a wreck happens in front of you and you're on the outside, what do you hear the spotter say? Check up, check up, check up, correct?
Yep. Yep.
Tyler Mon, keep coming, keep coming, keep coming. I'm like, what are you doing? Come on.
Well, I mean, I think
No.
he's admitted. So did you watch Larson's pre-race thing for the Daytona 500 where he was talking about his goals and wanting to be
Yeah, he said he really wants a 500 to complete the what we
now
call
he
it.
wants to complete it, but at the time, he didn't. So it's kind of what got me thinking about, like, do you really need it? And I
I
don't.
think once he
I would
won
take
Darling,
a.
when
I
he
would.
won the Brickyard last year, that
Yep.
changed his mind.
Yep.
He's
I
got
would take
3
a
of the
stack
4.
of Coke 600 trophies and Southern 500 trophies any day of the week over a Daytona 500 trophy.
I'd take that Brickyard trophy every year if I could.
Yep.
You brought it up earlier in the show, and I was kind of waiting until now that we're kind of back on it again. I honestly, if they go through and bring the tires that they should be bringing to Bristol, I would almost say that Bristol by far would be the fourth crown jewel as opposed to Daytona anymore.
Well, there's some that already say it's a crown jewel.
I said that.
I think it
It
is.
should have been a long time ago.
But
I
if you
said
remember right, Talladega used to be a crown jewel, and
yeah.
now it's not. Nobody ever calls it a crown jewel anymore.
Well,
I
that was
said,
back in the late '90s, early 2000s when you could actually have decent racing there too.
and they had
Yeah.
the Winston Million and the that Bud Challenge where if you could win 3 out of 4 or whatever. Yeah,
That
I
was the Winston Million, 3 out of 4.
I
The no
said
ball.
on the No Bull. Yep. I said on the RCCA forum the other day that I felt like the Bristol night race was more of a justification to be a crown jewel than the Daytona 500 because again, you are in control of your destiny there. It's one of the hardest races to win because it's 500 miles inside that bull ring and there's nowhere to hide, but you are still in control of your destiny, especially now that we've got a softer tire and you can pass again. It's not rock hard tires. You can go anywhere. You can do high, low, whatever. You know,
Can I
especially those
pull?
races last year.
Can I
Show.
pull?
Go ahead.
Can I pull a Blake?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's 500 laps, not 500 miles. It's a half-mile track.
I was trying to
You're right.
behave and you did it for me. 250 miles, sir.
Like you're right. You're right. It's just like the Phoenix kilometers, 300
Yeah,
whatever.
300. Yeah.
It's 500K,
Yep. But yeah,
312 miles.
I've thought for a long time the Bristol night race should be a crown jewel, especially when Indy went away that it should have been a fourth crown jewel. But I think your four crown jewels today are Indy, Bristol, Darlington, and Charlotte. Yeah. And honestly, to some extent, if you were to take Charlotte out of it, I would put Kansas in there in its place. Kansas
No.
is stupid hard to win.
Yeah,
And
but
For the overall show, I would say yes, Kansas, because you need to you have to at least take one of those stupid ass stages out of the 600.
yep.
You're taking the legitimacy of that being a crown jewel race by making it an even 4 stages. That blows my mind. That was the whole point of
it needs
having a
to
600-mile race.
if you're going to keep the stages, it should be 100, 100, and 200.
Yep. And you still get the prestige of the longest race of the year, with the hardest and most grueling stage being 200 laps, where you no longer know where your guaranteed cautions are, and you allow the traditional part of the race to play out of, all right, do I come early? Do I come late? Will my tires hold up? Will my brakes hold up? Will my
You got an entire Xfinity race you have to run in one stage, 300 miles. Like the reason they don't do that just blows my mind.
So okay.
Because that's not what the fans want.
I'm trying to think if I got anything else. I don't.
3 of them standing right here that wants it.
That's not what the fans, aka Ben Kennedy, want.
Yep.
Our Lord and Savior Ben Kennedy.
Yep.
Y'all got anything else you want to touch on?
I think I'm good.
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Okay. Yeah, we covered the rule update. We covered the duels. We covered the race, the Pitbull thing.
Real quick, who got the Xfinity fastest lap point? Do we know?
I never heard them talk about it after about the mid or.
Thought they said Bubba in one of the tweets.
I saw they talked about it about a third of the way through the race, and then I never heard of it again. Heard about it again.
There's a way to figure this out.
Cracking me up. Yeah, I have to check Twitter. That Bob Parkers announced it, and I'm trying to remember who he said got it. I want to say it was Bubba.
It should just be.
Where is my Bob Parkers tweet? Mr. Parkers, where are you? Let's check. I don't know. When I want it, it's not there. Oh. So, but I'm gonna call it a night, guys, so that I can let my wife have the bedroom back in here and she can go to sleep. And
I mean, there's no reason they don't make that part of the graphics that are on the TV. That could be a real time stat that you have on the TV the entire time, somewhere on that screen, showing the Xfinity fastest lap.
Now, one thing I did want to mention, it shows that Byron became the Celsius brand ambassador. So sounds like he's going to get Celsius as a sponsorship at some point. So that'll be neat.
Really?
Yep.
Well, at least somebody will be getting a different paint scheme.
Yeah. Cup Series.
You be quiet, Chris.
All right, guys. Well, let me get off here, and then I'll upload it once I get done.
It was Michael McDowell.
McDowell. That's who it was. McDriver. Okay. So, and I'm sure he was like,
Last lap was 45.17.
well, yep, and he's 14th in points right now. So we'll see how that goes. But
Well, good show, guys. Tell your
yep,
wife we're sorry we took it for so long.
that's okay. We're good. And I will catch up with y'all later. Good
All
show.
right. Peace out.
Have
Guys.